Here is an explanation for the answer to final exam question number 91 in Alternative Energy Demystified, 2nd edition. If you have the printed book, please refer to page 331 at the top. We're talking here about a small-scale fuel cell power plant designed for residential use. That's where you have a fuel cell, a bunch of batteries, and associated hardware to derive power from some fuel, hopefully hydrogen, but also fuels such as methane can work. The idea is to get your electricity from that system and be independent of the power grid, or in some cases with a grid intertie system you might sell excess energy back to the grid. What particular kind of device could you power directly from the fuel cells? Not using the storage batteries, which can provide a relatively lot of power if you have enough of them, but directly use the output of the fuel cell. In theory, which of the following appliances would we be able to run that way? A notebook computer. That doesn't consume very much power at all, only a few watts. B, an electric space heater. Well, that consumes upwards of a kilowatt, depending upon what setting you put it on. C, an electric oven. That can consume several kilowatts. That's a lot of power. An electric air conditioner, again, hundreds of watts up to well over a kilowatt. Well, the fuel cell itself cannot really provide that much power directly. So the correct answer to this question is a notebook computer. In fact, if you charge your notebook computer from the system and don't use it while it's charging and then run it off its own battery, it takes almost no power at all to do that. It does use some power from its own battery. But let's look now at a schematic diagram of a fuel cell system that will work for residential use. The fuel source here can be hydrogen, methane, otherwise known as natural gas. It can even be something like alcohol, ethanol. It can be something like biogas, any kind of combustible fuel. But of course, the coolest way to go is to use hydrogen. That's the technology that will offer the coolest alternative. Cool meaning neat or interesting or fun or something along those lines. Technologically savvy. If you're going to run something off of methane, particularly if it's coming from the utility, you might as well just use a methane generator. And the same would go for propane or gasoline or even ethanol or diesel fuel. Why use a fuel cell when you can just have an old internal combustion generator and run it? But the hydrogen with the fuel cell, that's a little bit cooler technology. There's something to be said for propane stored on site to be used in an independent system. Anyway, there's power control circuitry, a power inverter which converts the direct current from the fuel cell or the batteries here to alternating current at the proper voltage and frequency for use in your house. In the United States, the nominal root mean square RMS AC voltage is 117 volts, give or take a few percent, at 60 hertz, 60 cycles per second. In some countries, 50 cycles per second, or 234 volts AC, give or take a few percent. But anyway, getting back to the gist of this question, if you want to use the fuel cell's output directly to power something and not rely on the power control, the charging circuitry, your high capacity battery bank, which should hopefully be able to store quite a number of kilowatt hours of electricity for you, so that you can get a lot of power when you need it. If you bypass all that and just feed the fuel cell's output directly into your appliance, The only thing of the choices given here that will work satisfactorily is a notebook computer. Once again, that is choice A.